Sponsored by the Dunleary Rattown Local Enterprise Office. You're listening to Business Eye on Dublin South FM.
And welcome, folks. It's Friday fun, the sun is shining. I just spent yesterday down in Clara Lara, and I have to say it was amazing. The last time I was down there was probably maybe 40 years ago, when it was a rope and a river, and now it was all decked out. It had barbecue areas, people were laughing, joking, and it reminded me of what life was meant to be about. Life is meant to be about fun, laughter, and joy. Strange things are happening in the world, and strange things are happening in Ireland, and especially with the vote that's going and the segregation that's coming along. And I hope people can just step back and not listen and take any of this nonsense in, and reflect on compassion, love, joy, and happiness for each other. It's summer. The road ahead is unknown. There's going to be a bit of chaos, but we have to remember that we are all human beings. Simon, how are you?
You're right. You're talking of Clara Lara, Joe. The last time I was there was about 2002 with my young daughters. They were about 2 and 3 at the time. And there was a pond and there was a zip line. I remember dropping into it, and it was like we were flailing around in a puddle of mud, basically. But it was great fun. And that sums up the next 20 years of my life, flailing around in a puddle of mud.
Yeah. You can't really, I think you can't really get too involved with everything that's going on, because you could probably go crazy. I think you have to find space for yourself. And Simon, I didn't have my phone with me or anything. And it was just nice to disconnect from everything out there. Totally disconnect on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, just talking about, Lee probably it's not fully aware because our guest is from the UK, but there was a bill overnight in the Irish Dáil, our Parliament, and basically you've got a form of state-endorsed, for want of a better word, discrimination. So people who are vaccinated will be allowed into restaurants, and unvaccinated won't. And it'll just be very, very interesting, Joe, to see how this plays out. The government have set out their stall, and I don't really know where this is going to end up. So watch this space.
Well, Simon, do you know why they did it? The reason why they went after the pubs, because under our constitution, and as we are sovereign human beings, they can't go after the person. So it's a corporation going after a corporation, a business going after a business. So that's the way it's playing. But anyway, yes, who is our guest today, Simon? Who is our guest today?
So we have a phenomenal guest from the UK. His name is Lee Foster. Who I know well. He has over 30 years experience in business development in hospitality, the motor industry, travel industry, and now runs an amazing network called Revitalise Connect, which I know well. He has amazing energy, great sense of humor, and just a really great connector. So Lee, it's great to see you. How are you?
I'm very well, Simon, and thank you so much to yourself and to Joe for the opportunity to come along this afternoon and have a chinwag, have a chat with us both.
You're welcome. And I was just saying, Joe, as you went put the dog out there, that Lee is just an amazing connector. It's created an amazing organization. Maybe Lee, just tell us a little bit about Revitalise Connect first up.
Yeah, thanks very much. Revitalise began in 2017 as a networking event. I wanted to change a bit of the vibe of networking. I wanted to make it more generally connecting people, having those mutual understandings, having those conversations. And then over the last 4 years, after been developing the networking event, but also it sort of transferred into a business club and then a membership program, and now very greatly looking at it, how it's all panned out, it's turned into a global network where I've got connections working online, meeting people from Ireland to Canada to the United States, a real good cross-section of many business owners and entrepreneurs from across the globe. But Revitalise began to bridge that gap, to find that difference between each other, to nurture and cultivate business relationships over that time.
Do you think that we everyone is sort of talking about the last year and about how lockdown and how networking and we're all using online? before that, it was networking in hotels or going to gatherings where you'd go in, have a quick chat with people, the business card, and then move on. It was I didn't like them myself because it was some sort of like speed dating, and you'd be talking to someone and they would be eyeing you up to see if you were relevant. People asking you what your job career is, so they then can establish what sort of engagement they would give you or look on your shoulder and get off. Is that still the sort of the framing of what's going on, or is the system that you're using changed?
It's changed really, Joe, and I think it's changed in a good way. It's made it a lot more productive working online, meeting people. You've got a certain space of time that you're making that virtual connection. What you talked about before there, when people were doing the face-to-face and they had the business cards and they're shaking each other's hands and having cups of coffee, unfortunately, and I don't mind sharing this, many people have judged the cover before even speaking to somebody. They judged the book by the cover. They didn't delve into the background, the history, what make them tick, why they do what they do it for. I think with the likes of now online, it's made people take more of a vested interest into finding more about the individual. Delving in, as I've mentioned quite recently a lot, is delving into the chapters of their background, their history. You start to get more of a foundation of really learning and nurturing those relationships between each other, finding out a lot more, and most importantly, where you can collaborate and support each other.
That's a good segue into my next question, which is about, I've been in a couple of networking groups. I had a bad experience in the first one. I had a much better experience in the second one. And my observation is, how do you, there are introverts, there are people who hog the rooms, there are people who offer things, there are people who take things. How does a networking group ensure that everybody's included, that nobody's excluded, and that the lowest common denominator within the group is looked after? Is there a way of doing that within a networking group?
I think it is, and it's a great question to ask that, Simon. And I think, I know, when you look at what I've built over the last 4 years, each individual is their own self right in their business. But what I foster and what I encourage is the art of the conversation. Everyone's got a blank canvas. You're having that conversation and you're meeting people for who they are and where they came from. But there also has to be a unity through the whole network and understanding from the beginning of this is what the network's all about. It should be community based. It should be pulling together as a team. You hear the old phrase, together everybody achieves more. Many have different levels of hierarchy in networks. Revitalize has one platform, and it's all about individuals. So it's a level playing field in regards to how you can support each other.
That's interesting that you have it as a network, and people do join networks to do business. And if you have everyone on the same playing field, how does that operate with, the person that's self-employed, who's, struggling and trying to find their feet, and the person then who's running a business of 3 million a year plus? Have you got them in this? Are they in the same sort of community? And who's who's winning and who's losing in that, or does that matter?
I mean, there's no such win or lose. It's what you put into it. And I think from somebody having a large business, have been an entrepreneur, the small business owner start a business, or someone's just start off in their journey, can actually have that support throughout the network. It's about the centralized knowledge of everybody. Everyone's bringing something to the table where they can share it with one another. There's always something that, sorry, Simon, yeah.
The other thing is fun. I mean, I came to your session last week and I thought it was the best one I've ever been to, right? And I feel that because I could see everybody was bought in. And the key, I think, was fun. And some of the activities, you had various roulette activities where the kind of blind dates, everybody had to go into a room and talk to somebody new. And That's great. You know, that element of fun, that humanness, because I find that some of this networking stuff can be really dull. You know, you come along each week, you talk, you present, you listen. If you're lucky, you listen. A lot of people switch off, but you make it fun and entertaining and live. Explain that a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, when I first launched Revitalize, it was always bringing a different vibe to the room. So when I first launched it in June the 28th, 2017, there's 21 people, teas, coffees, and conversation. That's where it began from. The thought behind it was to revitalize your month, but to bring people together in conversation. And even when I did the live events, I used to do a thing called Flash Your Business. So it was like 30 seconds of fame. But it was actually 10 seconds of fame. And I used to run around the room with a couple of mic runners and give the mic to Simon. Simon, you got 10 seconds. Stand up and introduce yourself to everybody. Really? Thank you. Joe, you're next. You got 10 seconds. Introduce yourself. Yeah, all right, okay. It had that vibe and sort of energetic feel to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you've got to have fun. And there's a sense of business and also fun at the same time. You know, there's a common sort of thread all the way through. We're here for business. We're also here to have a bit of energy and a bit to give you that lift in the month. That's what Revitalize was brought upon. You know, having that spark in the month itself. The roulette part of it came from doing the breakout rooms. And then I thought, well, the roulette is a random side of it. So it means that I'm going to put you in a room with somebody now. The twist is you don't know who you're going to meet. So number one, have you got your questions ready? Number two, have you got your appointment book ready? And number three, are you going to schedule in a follow-up call with them as well in that? So, and who are you going to introduce to one another? So you've got to be prepared, ready for this roulette part of it. Yeah. And that's the one-to-one element to how it works. And you can still do your introduction, your 1 minute pitch or 60-second intro, but my sponsor members now facilitate that in their breakout rooms. So it makes it more of a close-knit community feel in those different rooms. So the event itself is driven by myself, kept entertaining. I always like to include the members, new members, guests, speakers, and, you know, speak to people, introduce people, recognize that people are there, and also recognize and show appreciation for the work that members have been doing.
There's one thing that I've realized as well, and I don't think a lot of people know this, that it takes a lot more effort, time from you or whoever when you're doing it online than when you're actually doing it in say a hotel room or whatever, because in the hotel room it's just a shout and everyone does it and breaks it up. But when you're doing it online, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and multiple things can go wrong. How do you, like, how much time do you actually put into the planning down yourself?
There's a few weeks in advance. I mean, number one, you've got promotion, advertising, marketing. But even the prep, getting the timings, the running order correct, that's a few days in advance, really. It's weeks in the making. You know, I have to tweak things at last minute. It happens. Plan B, how the event's going to run. I've got a skeleton that I work everything through. So I talk to people about planning for their networking, planning for their conversations, planning for those meetings. I do all that, but I also do a lot of planning and preparing for the events to make sure they're delivered on time, they're running smooth through. I think somebody once said to me, I know we're on the voice now, but he went, Lee, all we see is your upper part of your body and we don't see anything else. But then everything just moves swimmingly through. I said, well, what you don't see is I make Liberace on the keyboard. I'm literally playing around with the keys like manic. So you see, it's like a duck under the water. The legs are going 50 to the dozen, but on top, I'm staying stationary. I'm staying still and presenting on that side. So
and Lee, it's just that, you know, just before it happens, the nerves are going, okay, are you ready? Have you got this? Let's go with it. You know, that's that psychological playing with yourself on it. So yeah, it is interesting. Simon.
Yeah. So Lee, so what brought you to this is the first question, and the second question is why this is a vehicle? You could have done other things. So what brought you to this, and why is this your vehicle?
I really enjoy helping people, Simon. That's a great question to have. I took a step back. I went through a redundancy in 2016. Unfortunately, I came out of a company and took some time out. And I took some time to reflect on what I'd done over the last fair few years. I've always been involved in sales, business development. Sales is making friends with people. So for me, like I said once before, I never sold a car in my life, but I sold over 30 cars of making friends every month. I made friends every month out of that. It's a great way of looking at it. So for me, when I started doing this, was I enjoyed putting people in the right direction, putting people in front of each other that would have some synergy, that would be able to support. Now, if business comes from that, great. And, I expect nothing else in return. I don't mind putting people in the right place. If somebody asks me to introduce them to somebody that would help their business, their journey, their startup, I'll certainly do that for them. Now and again, but that's where it all started for me, was helping, nurturing, supporting people, because I've done that for nearly all my career. Yeah.
Simon, networking for yourself, what's your own thoughts of networking before you met Lee?
It's funny, I used to be the most cynical person about it. I used to hate networking, and somebody in Dublin who I know well would agree with me, because he invited me into his group a few years ago, and it took me a year to pluck up the courage, and I did, and I went along. I didn't like the 6:30 a.m. starts, and so for me, networking, it's more informal. It's about building up my own connections, which I've done. And for me, online has been really handy. Although, having said that, Lee's one last week, I'd never seen one with that kind of level of fun. I mean, I honestly think, Lee, that there's some magic in that more people need to know about, because I just assumed networking was cynical, formulaic. It was stuffy people in a room together trying to hard sell. If there's a way of canning that freedom and that fun and that surprise, I think more people will be attracted to it.
I think that's a good point to have as well. It's a great point to have, Simon, because I mean, it's don't get me wrong. There's a place for everything we do in networking. Networking's in the title. You've got to work at it to net what you're doing, and that's hence the networking side of it. I like to use it as a gym analogy. If you go to the gym and you go regularly, you'll benefit from it. If you stick with it consistently, you'll benefit from it even further. Networking is exactly the same way. You've got to find your balance of maybe 2 or 3 things that you'll definitely go to regularly all the time. The key to networking is the community, and it's the relationship that you're building.
Yeah.
Why would you work on one network to move to another and then leave all the relationships you've just built up? That's what you see quite regularly happening that way. So you've got to be able to balance those relationships that you're nurturing, you're cultivating, and you've got to have a look at continuity and authenticity within networking itself as well.
That's a good point. The continuity. I'm actually talking to 2 members, Willie and Quentin, this week and next week, and I think continuity is the main thing. And maybe I'm lazy, but I tend to give up quickly when it comes to this stuff, but I think that's really important.
Yeah, I gave it up a long time ago. I was, I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl, and the meetings at 6:30 in the morning, and getting in and having a meeting at 6:30 with a cold coffee and a digestive biscuit for breakfast wasn't really my desired start of the day. And I sort of drifted out of them. But I think the advantage as well, and I've said this to you as well, Simon, was having the radio show on a radio station in Dublin, where my networking itself became speaking to people on the radio. So inviting guests in, and it's having a chat about those people as well, and knowing more about them. And that's probably the advantage that we have, Simon, over a lot of other people as well, As Simon, I forgot to tell you, we were classed as mini celebrities the other day. That's so myself and Simon. Someone I was speaking to says, "Oh yeah, mini celebrity. Listen to you all the time. Yours are great." So
we're only mini ones.
only mini.
Mini's better than nothing.
I said, "How dare you say mini?"
Lee, I mean, in terms of the Revitalise brand, what I know we were talking about this, that you're planning to pivot and make this more of a consistent global thing. Maybe describe the process that you're going through.
Yeah, I've repositioned the Revitalise because it started off with being Scotland's most focused network community. It then went to a national network community because we have members across the whole of the UK, from Harrogate to Dorset to Aberdeen to further afield. I then looked at the island as opening up a separate branch. Now what I've decided to do is bring under one umbrella as a global network, because I have a member that's now joined from Canada, and we've had guests and people attending the event every month from United States, from West Coast to East Coast, to Australia, to even Europe, from Spain to Portugal and other places have come along and joined us at the event. But then also having a Canadian member who's now joined the membership as such, getting involved with the community and getting actively involved with all the sort of sessions and the workshops that I run within the club itself. That's why I've repositioned as a global business event now, both global network.
Do you see, the way the world is at the moment? Do you see that this is growing? As is there more entrepreneurs coming out? Is there more people that want help? Is there more people that want, networking? Have you seen this sort of skyrocket over the last 12 months because everyone's been on lockdown, or what's your thoughts on all that?
I think lockdown in itself, the way it happened, it opened up the geography completely. It braked the borders for people to speak to one another across a global communication. I think there's always going to be people who are just starting off in their business, who are well established in their business, but always looking for that refreshing reset button, support and knowledge. And I think now embracing the online format, there's so many contacts out there now who are tapping in to all these different resources, either looking for business or looking for support with their business. There's a real need for that, I believe, right now. And I think working on an online platform has made it easier to facilitate that information for everybody across the board. So I do believe there's a need for it still, and there always will be. There's always a need of keeping yourself visible, active, and 100% engaged in the conversation.
What about somebody who's lacking in confidence or shy or an introvert? I know a few around, and they would cringe at the idea of joining a network. And how... Being the leader of a network as you are, you must almost be like a psychologist. You must be watching the body language in the room, and your responsibility is to make sure that quietest person in the group is looked after. What kind of things do you look for, Lee? To help. Yeah, I mean, I have an ambassador team that I've put into place throughout the RBC. So it's great joining a club or joining a network or joining an event and then being left to your own devices and having no structure to it whatsoever. So, for example, maybe on that answer to that question is that when people join the RBC, the membership, they always get introduced to my ambassador team. And that's that first one-to-one conversation. It just gently brings them into the community, whereas they know they've got all these support links to help. I think we cover nearly every aspect in business where we can support individuals to how they can be helped and nurture that confidence. The accountability network sessions that I run in the club are in place to keep people on track with their networking activities, but also to share confidence builders in regard to going out there and networking in other networks. So I'm actually supporting other networks within the network itself. Yeah. I hope that answered the question. No, it's perfect.
I think we've just a couple of minutes left. What's your own biggest fear?
That's a really good question. And I've actually thought about that recently.
Apart from dinosaurs, sharks, tigers, but your biggest...
Sharks especially, Simon. I tell you about sharks especially. I think the biggest fear is letting people down. That's a big fear to me, and it's always been part. I don't want to let people down, and I don't want that to happen.
That's a lot to carry on your shoulders. But
that's the industry I'm in, though, Joe. And it's for me, I like to make sure I'm delivering what people want and need at the time, and I want to make sure I can deliver that as much as I possibly can, because that's a big thing for me to offer people. As I said, across the board, who have joined in all different types of industry sectors and experience and knowledge that's in there. So the network or the community of Revitalise, and a few new members have just joined in the last 7 days as well. So
I don't think people realise how hard it is to build it and how much time it takes as well. There's one thing that people have to realise: people start something. I've noticed that people will start something and they're great and they give up after 6 months because they're not getting the traction. But it takes 3-4 years to build that. And if you stick with it, it really works. I've, seen, like, from my point of view is, you get excited when you get 1 people or 2 people or 3, and then when you get 10, and then when you start building it up and it's thousands of people then as well. And I used to be all about that ego and, we've got, we have a Facebook page there with 8,000 people on it. Great. It's nonsense, complete nonsense. I'd rather have a group with 50 people that are actually interacting and getting something out of it than a group with 10,000 people, because all it is just numbers, nothing more on it. Yeah.
I need to agree with you on that, Joe, actually. Yeah, it's got to have some substance to it. It's got to be able to work. Once you go bigger, then you add in new teams and you're building in other elements into it to facilitate and to support.
Like my wife has a group with, it's a closed group with 8,500 people, and grown organically over a long period of time. And there's 4 or 5 now admin in it, and the work that goes into it. Yeah, it's hard work on it.
So Lee, how do people find out about you and Connect and Revitalise Connect? How do they find out about all that?
Really straightforward, Simon. People can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me on my LinkedIn profile, Lee Foster. You can go to the website, which is revitalize-connect.com. The new website landing page has got everything you need, the members directory, all the information on the events that are coming up, and you can contact me via that way as well. So it's really straightforward, straight to revitalize-connect.com. Perfect.
Lee,
I'll even stick the virtual kettle on for people to have a virtual cup of coffee with me.
That's it. That old. I did one of them the other week. The tea was very weak.
Was it weak?
I like that, a strong cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But Lee, look, thanks for coming on. It's interesting to see that where it's developing and growing as well, and it is something that myself and Simon we've created the Business Eye Advisory, where we're bringing people into a group to coach them and help them make decisions in their business. And there's a bit of planning going in, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people will never know. So I commend you on that. On it. And now we're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in a few minutes with our business showcase.
Sponsored by the Dunleary Rattown Local Enterprise Office. You're listening to Business Eye on Dublin South FM.
Well, Simon, what a great guest. A young man, an entrepreneur, setting up a business, getting people to network all around the world. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, Lee's a great guy. He brings great energy and honesty, integrity, humility, and fun as well. And, he changed my mind around networking. I was an old cynic about it. I thought it was for stuffy old, desperate old shirts. But he brings real fun and real honesty and humility to it, which is wonderful.
Talking about fun and entrepreneurs, we have Anne-Marie Phelan from the Media Cube in Dunleary. And if anyone doesn't know what the Media Cube is, it's that big blue building when you're driving down to Dunleary. And I have spent many a time in there as well. I know that it's buzzing entrepreneurs. There's a lot of, shyness, ego, strategy, tactics, all flourishing out of that. That if you could raise energy, if you could have a beam, Simon, on energy, of entrepreneurship, and you pointed at that building, it would be like a glowing rainbow. Marie, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you for having me on the show today. It's great to be here.
Delighted to have you on. Tell me, it's been going since 2017?
Actually, would you believe, Joe, since 2007?
2007, I apologise.
I have to say, it's probably one of those, beacons for entrepreneurs that's probably not, if you like, shouting its own voice highly enough, because the output that comes out of the Media Cube is really quite impressive. As I say, we started in 2007, and believe it or not, that building has created over 1,000 jobs in that period. So, there's some very, very innovative people coming through the building and continue to do so. And lots going on at the moment, which I'll tell you about now shortly.
Definitely.
And sorry, Joe. What kind of entrepreneurs come through you? I mean, it's described as the Media Cube. They're not all just media type entrepreneurs, are they?
Well, actually, we have quite a lot of companies that tend to be in the kind of creative space. And we do like to see companies that are, if you like, mirroring the research that we're doing on the campus here in IADT. So we would have a kind of a high proportion in that area. But what we've found, and this is probably more recently we've discovered, I suppose, as the kind of global economy has become more digitized, really IADT is very well positioned in those spaces. And as a result, I suppose, our expertise in areas like user experience, 3D, 2D model making, data visualization, design, film, animation, digital media, cyber psychology, all of that mix, if you like. As a result, those skills are kind of needed across all sectors now. So we're finding that the demand, if you like, has really increased, particularly over the last 5 years.
One of the things that I love about the whole idea as well is, as you know, a lot of people go into the business through New Frontiers.
That's right.
That application, then get the funding, and then they're brought into the cube, and they get the mentoring, and they get to speak to other people, and there's a lot of brainstorming within. It's a community. It really is a community. Mm-hmm. And after when the New Frontiers, when that program is up, a lot of companies have the option then to stay there and stay within the hub and grow as well, instead of going, right, your time is up now, out onto your ear there on it.
Yeah. And like what I would say, probably in the first instance, to say to people, if you're thinking of starting a business and you really think that your business has international potential, New Frontiers is definitely the way to go, because it will certainly stress test your business idea. But as I say to people, bring on the no early. And if you need to change or pivot, let that happen early, so that, your own time is very valuable. So you want to make sure that you're investing well in your business. So companies that come through New Frontiers that are, as we would see it, solid enough, we would encourage them to stay within the incubation center in the Media Cube. And those companies tend then to license space from us, because, at that stage, they are probably hiring people and they're beginning, if you like, to scale up a team. Now, this is, if you like, is actually the most challenging time for a startup, because invariably they will be looking at potentially raising funding as well. So there's a lot of things coming at them at the one time. They're taking on new people. If you like, as a sole founder, you might be moving now from wearing, a couple of hats, and now you have to manage other people along with it. And then you also have to look at maybe raising funding. So that in itself it can be quite a challenging road. So we like to encourage companies to stay with us in the kind of mentoring environment, so that we can help you through that scale up process. And And I should say, in the Media Cube, we actually have an in-house venture capital company that we call on to help companies that are looking at fundraising. So Enterprise Equity, Conor O'Connor and Tom Shinquin, they actually play a very educational role with our companies. Because if it's one thing I often say to our entrepreneurs, it takes longer than it takes. You talk about raising whatever, you think you're going to do it in a year. Well, you know what? Actually, the planning for that may happen a whole lot longer than that, and you need to be ready for that. So being able to tap into the likes of Enterprise Equity, kind of in a safe environment, without feeling you're under pressure, and to put your ducks in a row so that you're in a position to be ready.
To ready on it, yeah.
Understand who's the right partner for you if you're going to have an investor.
Simon?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, somebody recently told me that Ireland would be in the top 2 or 3 countries in Europe for digital skills, but it's towards the back end in terms of soft skills for the younger generations. And I wonder, is there anything that you do directly or indirectly to help some of those businesses with their soft skills, things like assertiveness and influencing and networking, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's funny, New Frontiers spends so much time on developing the skills, if you like, for people to pitch their businesses, to be able to talk confidently about what they do, but get it down succinctly. So that's actually a big aspect of the program, because actually it's those soft skills, and as you say, Simon, being able to influence people to buy into what you're doing is a really critical skill set.
I think it is, and one of the reasons, because when a company, people have an idea, and the people that they're speaking to is their parents and their friends, and they're all going, "They're great, it's brilliant, it's great," and when they go in and meet yourselves, you're hitting them with those hard questions. You're telling them the truth, and you're saying, that's not going to work. And what I've noticed as well, there's one thing I always notice when you're speaking to new entrepreneurs, when the one saying, if we only get 1% of the millions of people out there, you go, oh, here we go, the 1%. We all want the 1%. We all want it. But the other thing as well, which it is that sometimes a business will go in to your venture, into the hub, and it might actually come out as something totally different. And that's what I love about it, that it's
that's not unusual. And in fact, that's very commonplace. And I suppose the other thing to say is, and I think entrepreneurs learn from each other. There's nothing better than learning from somebody who's already made the mistake, because God, you definitely feel it. You've taken it home, and you never want someone else to feel the pain you felt yourself. So that's a big aspect, I suppose, of the Media Cube, the network generally. A lot of our alumni would still be in touch with us despite having left many years earlier. And it's because there's that kind of safe environment to share the problems that they're meeting on a daily basis.
It's like I'm learning from you, Simon, every day. I remember when starting out my business, I used to say to people, I sleep like a baby every night. I wake up every 2 hours, So tell us, what is new? What's new? Anything coming down the road that we need, our listeners need to know?
Yeah, well, the big news, I suppose, from the Media Cube perspective is that we are launching our own standalone New Frontiers program now in partnership with Nova UCD. So this is a big achievement, because while we were operating the New Frontiers program since 2013 with Dublin Institute of Technology, now known as TU Dublin, we would have been a minor partner in the delivery of that program. So we would have only had a kind of a part-time team in place to deliver the program. But what has happened in recent times is just the number of entrepreneurs coming from, I suppose, the Dún Laoghaire, Rathdown, North Wicklow area has grown substantially. So there really was the feeling that, there was a lot of support available in this area, but we hadn't connected the dots. So in talking with Nova UCD, they also acknowledged they needed a structured program to deal with their early stage startups, and they didn't have that. So by us collaborating together, we're effectively providing that first gate for early stage startups. So if you like, we can direct them then if companies or individuals get through that program. Some may not, and that's okay. They may not be ready, but at least we have them on the radar. And if they are successful and come through the program, we can direct them then into other supports that are already in the area. So, for example, Nova UCD have a plethora of accelerator programs. Up to now, they would have had to go through to UCD to be able to avail of that. But now we're kind of joining the dots in terms of all the supports that are in the area, and we can kind of channel them through more kind of effectively. So that's, a big win, I think, for everybody. And I think it makes things easier for entrepreneurs to navigate the maze of supports, which can be complex.
Definitely. Simon, we've got about a minute left here.
Oh, it's great. I think as you said, Emery, I work with a large number of SMEs, and the biggest challenge they all face is there's so many, there's so much confusion out there in relation to, where you get your money from, and grants and loans and tax and all this sort of stuff. Having a mentor organization that can help navigate all that with you, I think, is invaluable. So it's
and to say as well, Simon, as I am not a funder, like entrepreneurs, and I say this with the greatest respect, they can be truthful with me. They can be honest, and I think that's a good position to be in, because if you like, entrepreneurs feel comfortable then to say, look, this is really where I'm at, and for me, the awful thing is if when you meet an entrepreneur and they're too far down the road and have missed funding that they could have availed of, and they've really, had a very difficult startup journey because they missed the necessary support. So we're very excited. Our New Frontiers program, our new one, is starting in October. We're looking for applicants now. So if there's anyone out there with a business idea, even if it's in its infancy, we want to hear about it. So please, we would be delighted to hear.
What's the web address? What's the web address?
So the web address is, if you just go www.newfrontiers@iadt.ie. That's the email address, newfrontiers@iadt.ie.
One of the things that I know, and I have to give you, the badge of honor for as well. If it wasn't for yourselves, there would be a lot of people out there who wouldn't have a business. So, hat off, you do great stuff, and keep doing it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I always say this, like, it's a privilege to be working with people who really are putting themselves out there and the impact they make. And it's a real thrill to be on the journey with them, which is often like a roller coaster. But it's great when you see the rewards coming back.
Definitely.
Great stuff.
Simon, you have to go to the building. And if you go right up to the top of that building, there's glass windows and you can have a coffee, especially on a blue, sunny day like today. And you can look over the bay. The best views of Dublin,
of Dunleary Harbour there.
I've driven past that building hundreds of times on the way down, and I've wondered, why is it so tall and so narrow?
Well, I tell you exactly, Simon. We wanted to maximise the number of units that we could have.
Oh, I get it.
The maximum number of startups in the building. That's why it's so tall.
Now I know.
And it's open 24 hours if there was someone is working in there.
360 days a year.
It's open all the time. I'm sure there's a couple of people living in there that you don't know. Henry, thanks for coming on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Sponsored by the Dunleary Rattown Local Enterprise Office. You're listening to Business Eye on Dublin South FM.
Yes, Simon, the Cube and even, the enterprise houses and all the enterprise boards all over Dublin. Dublin is a hub. And I believe Ireland is a tech hub for Europe as well. I really do.
Ireland is the Silicon Valley of Europe. You're right. It's so much happens here. And I don't know whether government fully appreciates the strength of the SME sector. I mean, you've got IDA and the big multinationals, which are great, but this is where it really happens. This is where innovation really happens in the smaller businesses.
Keeps us afloat. And for all those companies as well that want to check out, who want to know how they can navigate through their own business and through their own self-development, they got to check out Business Eye Advisory, where myself and Simon will sit down with you, hash things out, and hopefully make your business successful.
BusinessEyeAdvisory.com.
.com. Until next week, folks, I want to say thank you for listening. Love that we're getting great feedback from people as well. So I think myself and Simon might be taking a break for maybe a holiday. I'm going away in a week anyway, for a while and taking a break. But look, we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks a lot. Bye.